Hey guys, welcome back to the next part of our series. Today we're gonna start assigning or arranging our workplace here in Maya to make sure that we're ready to work on the retopology process. Now, this is a very simple process. I'm just gonna go into my decimated meshes and drag them into my Maya environment. So we got Freya, we got the skirt, and the upper dress. Pretty much that's it. That's the three main parts of our character right now. We're gonna have more stuff later on. We're gonna add the bracelet, but we're not gonna sculpt it. We're just gonna model it, and we're gonna add the stone for the bracing garment necklace. We also have the teeth, but I'm not gonna add them right now because they're not gonna be really useful for our face right here. Now, you might notice that when you import something into Maya, it tends to give you this namespace right here. This is a way for Maya to kind of save the file from where it came from and make sure that you remember where those things are located. However, I find that to be a little bit unnecessary in this case. So I like to go into General Editors, Namespace Editor, select all of them and say delete, merge with root. They're gonna be merged with the root namespace, which is our basic scene right here. And that's it, we're ready to go. Now, these three guys, I'm gonna Control G to group them up. I'm gonna call them Freya, Decimated. I'm gonna change their names. So this is body, decimated. This is dress, decimated. I'll just call this shirt for the moment. There you go. That's it. We're pretty much ready to start our process. So let me check real quick if I have my stuff here. No, I don't. Don't worry. That's fine. Here's the deal. I'm gonna hide the dress and the shirt for a second because we're not gonna really need them at this particular point of our with our character. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start working with all of the different elements of the face. Face is usually the first thing everyone works with, and we're gonna go in depth about what kind of loops and the specific things that we need here for our character. But before we do that, I want to show you what kind of tools we're gonna be working with. And the first tool we're gonna work with is this guy right here, this magnet. This is called the Make Object Live tool. And the way it works is actually very simple. You select any piece of geometry, click this thing, and it becomes a live object. So you can see the name right there, it's body decimated. That's why it's very important to have names so that you know what's going on here. And there are several tools from the Maya environment that work with this live surface. And the most important one is the Create Polygon tool. The Create Polygon tool is going to be found here in Mesh Tools, and this the Quad Draw tool. And I also have the shortcut right here. You can see my shelf right here. This is the shelf that I normally use, and most of my modeling tools are over here. So here I got my Quad Draw tool, and the Quad Draw is like the Swiss Army knife of the Maya environment because it allows you to create polygons by just creating 4 points and pressing Shift in the middle of them. It allows you to extend that by just creating more points and going around, like so. It allows to insert edges with Control, like so, and so, and so. You just select which edge you want to insert, and that's it. You can extend edges with Tab. If you hit Tab, you can just grab an edge and extend it very easily. And you can even change those options. Like if you double click the tool here, you're gonna get your tool settings somewhere in your screen, and you can change the extend from edge to loop, for instance, and it will extend a whole loop, or to border, and all the other borders is going to be extended and create pretty much a loop. So there are very, very nice tools in this specific tool, in the Quad Draw tool, and that's pretty much the tool that we're going to be using for our retopology process. Now, the method I like to work with is the following, and I'm going to show you with the color bones right here. A lot of people make the mistake of just coming here and trying to create these very, very little squares to try and follow all of the form of their character. Now think about it. If I'm doing those little squares right there, how long is it going to take for me to cover the whole character? It's going to take a long time. It's going to be days until I finish this, and I don't want to get you guys through that hell. So I'm going to show you an easier way to do that, and let me illustrate with the example. The way we're going to be working is we're going to try to do big broad shapes. Okay, so we're gonna do big broad shapes with our character, like so. Imagine we're doing again the collarbone. So all of these big broad shapes, and then after you have these big broad shapes, then you go in and you add more lines. And those lines are pretty much gonna conform to the surface of your character as close as possible. Now, here's the trick. I'm gonna show you my little secret in regards to retopology. And it's not a secret, but it's a nice little trick here. Instead of trying to add more lines here and just like keep adding lines so that the form follows better our character, I'm just gonna keep it like this. And when I'm done with the model after the whole body is complete, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come up here into mesh and hit the smooth button. And the smooth button, as you can see, what it's gonna do is it's gonna add in a very uniform way a lot of lines all throughout the geometry that I have selected. And there's one more trick to this. There's one very special tool called Conform. And the Conform tool is right here under Mesh, Conform. And what Conform does, as long as you have a live surface, it's gonna try to push these vertices to the surface along the normal of your mesh. See that? I hit apply. And if I select this mesh right here, you're gonna see that it more closely follows the shape of my clavicle without me having to do a lot of work by drawing all the different squares all throughout my character. So this is the kind of process that we're going to be following when we create our character. And with that being covered, we're going to jump right into the creation of our topology. And we're going to start right here on the eye. The eye is one of the easiest parts to start with, and it's also one of the most important. So let me show you what I do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my quad draw, and I'm going to do 8 squares. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. As you can see, I'm trying to align all of the quads to either a vertical or a horizontal position. And this is going to allow me to keep my loops and pretty much all my topology clean in this first low poly stage, so that when I do the smoothing process and the conform process, everything is just going to fall into place very, very nicely. Now, for the eyes, the secret is that you need to create, first of all, like a goggle. Okay, you're going to do like a goggle here that goes around, like a big loop that covers the whole eye. And this big loop is pretty much going to extend all this way to the other side of the eye, like so. Now, as we extend this loop, you're going to notice, of course, that things start getting a little bit tense. Especially like in these polygons right here, you see that we have very big polygons here. That's totally fine. This is the first step for our character. The next step is we want to convert this goggle or loop here on the eye into like a mask. Like think of the Green Lantern mask, how it goes like in an 8 shape along the face. That's the shape that we want to create for our character. And the way we're going to do it is actually very simple. We're going to have 2 squares going up here, this guy going in like so, and you're going to see this point right here. Now this point, pay close attention to it if you've never done retopology before. This is called a star, because this star changes the flow of the topology. In this side of the star, you're going to have loops. And on this side, you're going to have a different loop going around the eye. So we're just going to continue this line here. One more, one more, one more. We're going to have one more star right here. And then this is going to jump to the middle point of our character, like so. See that? So we got loop on the eye and loop around both eyes. This is a very, very, very common topology guideline that I always encourage everyone to follow. Now, one of the things that you might notice is, hey, you know what? It's looking nice, but we are having a little bit of a tense situation here with very big polygons that are not really defining the shape of our character. And that's totally, totally fine. What we're going to do here is we're going to add a couple of lines. Now, every time I add one line here, I try to be fair. And if I added one here, I'm going to add one on the underside, so that there's always one vertex like colliding or communicating with another one over here. And if I have one on this side, then it's fair to have one on this side and one on this side. And then just move lines a little bit so that all of the polygons are a little bit more relaxed. You can always use your shift key, and this will relax the polygons as well. However, I feel like sometimes on this kind of situation, it doesn't really help that much. So see that? So that gives us pretty much everything we need to have about the eye. That's it, really. There's no more secrets here. The only extra thing that I would suggest you guys to do, or that I would encourage you guys to do, is going to the eye here. Let me frame here so that everything moves from that place, and extend the border of the eye inwards, because we do want to have a very sharp edge on the eyelid here. And we of course need to close the eye. Now there's two different schools of thought here in regards to the topology of the backside of the eye. Some people leave them open and they just make sure that the eyeball takes care of it. I personally feel like it's better to just cap it, because that way you have a watertight mesh, and it's usually a little bit better. It's not the end of the world if you don't do it, but it's usually a little bit better, I think. So I'm just gonna cap it here. You don't need to continue the the loops all the way to the back side of the eye. I just find it a little bit easier to organize that way, because I did at this point add a couple squares here, two triangles, the caps, and that's it. A little bit of smooth to relax stuff. And I do like to add one more line here on the outer side of the eyelid, one more line here where the fold of the eye happens, and actually I'll leave that one like that, because I know, and here's the important thing, this is what's going to happen eventually. I'm going to turn this off, and let's do a very quick test. I'm going to duplicate this 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Oh, let's call this low poly. Let's call this smooth poly, and let's call this conform poly, because I want you guys to see how this method that we're going to be using all throughout the character is going to really allow us to have a very nice looking mesh without killing ourselves in the process of retopology. So I'm just going to align these vertices right here for the conform poly, and I'm going to do a mirror. There we go. Let's grab, I'm just going to delete these guys and duplicate these guys. So that's conform. Let's call this smooth poly, and this final one's going to be low poly, which the low poly we're not going to touch right now. Let's grab 3 of them. Delete history, first transformation, center pivot, so that's it's easier to modify once we're once we change some stuff. Let's Control H that for a second, and I'm gonna hide the low poly. This one I'm just gonna smooth. So mesh, smooth. Let me move it up. There we go. And this we're gonna say mesh, smooth, and I'm gonna unhide the body, make it live, select this guy, and say mesh, conform. See how everything conforms to the surface? That's exactly what we're looking for. Turn off that thing, hide this thing for a second, and move the conform poly higher up. There we go. So now you guys are going to be able to see the difference between a low poly. Even if I do a smooth mesh here on mesh display, smooth mesh or soften edge, it still looks very jaggy. A smooth mesh, like higher topology here, this is exactly what we're going for in regards to the amount of polygons that we're going to have. And finally, that same amount of polygons, but with the projection of the proper normals of the character. You're going to see way more detail, and this is what we're going to have on our game. Okay, so that's the like overall goal that we want to have for a character. But for now, it's okay if our mesh looks super low poly, and it's okay if we just work with half of the character. You can work with symmetry on, and it's totally fine. I find that to be a little bit overkill in regards to resources, but if you want to do it, just go for it. Anyway, guys, I'm going to stop the video right here, and in the next video, we're going to continue with the topology of the face. So hang on tight, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.